Imagine tearing apart a car engine, just to find the one single part that actually makes it a car.
Right.
So you lay all the pistons, the spark plugs, the belts, you just lay them all out on the garage floor. But as you stare at the pieces, you realize something kind of unsettling. None of these individual parts is the car.
No, of course not.
And the car certainly doesn't exist independently of them, right? So you start to wonder if the car was ever actually there to begin with, or, if it was just a really useful concept your mind projected onto a pile of metal.
That's a great way to look at it.
Well, today, we are taking that exact same analytical wrench to the very fabric of reality.
And we aren't just taking apart something mundane like a car either. We're going to apply this logical dismantling to, well, the highest, most sacred concept in Buddhist philosophy,
Right.
the awakened mind itself, the Buddha, the Tathāgata.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, you likely already have a working framework for how to view reality. I mean, we all do. We inherently categorize things.
Oh, absolutely.
Good and bad, pure and impure. The sort of messy reality we live in versus some pristine state of perfection we are constantly striving
Yeah, I
for.
love a good binary.
We do. But we are diving into a text today that is designed to completely obliterate those categories. We are looking at Chapter 22 of Nāgārjuna's philosophical masterpiece, the Mūlamadhyamakakārikā, or the MMK.
Specifically, the chapter titled The Fully Completed, referring to the Tathagata.
Right. And to get the full picture, we're drawing on translations by Garfield, Strang, Batchelor, and PTG. And the mission for this deep dive is really to explore the true, inconceivable, pure nature of anything when it is perceived with an awakened eye.
It's a massive undertaking.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can deconstruct the Buddha, we really need to understand how he was constructed by the thinkers of Nāgārjuna's time.
Right. To really grasp the magnitude of what Nāgārjuna is doing here, we have to understand the intellectual climate of his time, which was around the 2nd century CE. He was responding directly to the Abhidharma tradition. And you can think of the Abhidharma philosophers as, well, the ultimate reductionist scientists of early Buddhism.
They loved their lists.
Oh, they loved to catalog. They wanted to catalog every single aspect of human experience.
Right, they didn't just want to meditate on suffering. They wanted to map the exact mechanics of it. So they broke the entire psychophysical complex of a human being down into the 5 aggregates.
Right, which are form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness.
And their worldview was fundamentally essentialist, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And dualistic.
Very much so. They believed that while ordinary, everyday objects might be illusions made of parts like your car analogy, the fundamental building blocks of reality, these aggregates or dharmas, had their own inherent essence.
Like a solid core.
Exactly. They called this svabhava, which translates roughly to own being or self-existence.
Okay, let me make sure I'm tracking this, because this concept of subhava is like the linchpin for everything we're going to talk about today.
It really is.
So the Abhidharma thinkers believed that somewhere at the very bottom of the metaphysical turtle stack, there's something solid, something that exists entirely on its own, independent of anything else.
Yes. They felt they needed that solid ground to make sense of the universe. And this brings us to how they viewed the Buddha.
Okay.
So for an ordinary person, stuck in the suffering of samsara, the aggregates are tainted. Your form, your sensations, your consciousness, they are all driven by ignorance and craving.
They have an impure essence.
Exactly.
Which, feels entirely accurate to the human experience. My consciousness on a Tuesday morning stuck in traffic definitely feels fundamentally tainted by irritation.
Oh, for sure. We've all been there. But the Abhidharma posits that an awakened being, a Tathagata, has completely purified these aggregates.
Right.
The Buddha has transcended samsara and attained nirvana. Therefore, his aggregates must possess a fundamentally different, completely pure essence.
So in this view, there is a very real ontological dividing line between you and the Buddha.
A hard line, yes.
I have to say, this Abhidharma view makes total logical sense to me. It's just how our brains are wired to function.
It's very intuitive.
Right. If I am striving for enlightenment, there has to be a difference between the state of ignorance and the state of enlightenment. Otherwise, what is the path? You have the messy, stressful world on one side and this pristine, perfect realm on the other.
It's a very comforting duality, and it protects the sanctity of the Buddha, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But Nāgārjuna looks at this dualistic, essentialist framework and realizes it's actually a philosophical trap.
A trap.
Yeah. If you claim that the Buddha or his pure aggregates, or honestly anything, possesses inherent independent essence svabhava, you eventually end up in a tangle of logical absurdities.
Okay.
His perspective, the Madhyamaka or middle way, is entirely non-essentialist.
So he is taking the ultimate sacred cow of his own religious tradition, the perfected Buddha, and he's just putting it on the chopping block.
He is.
How does he even begin to deconstruct something that revered?
Well, he starts by identifying the exact conceptual triad the Abhidharma uses to construct the Buddha in the first place.
Okay, the triad. Let's break that down.
To understand the Buddha in their framework, you need three distinct spheres. First, you have the owner. That's the Tathagata himself, the awakened person.
Right.
Second, you have the concept of ownership itself, the relationship linking the person to their attributes.
Okay.
And third, you have the possessions. Those 5 perfectly pure aggregates we mentioned.
Wait, so the Abhidharma is looking at the Buddha like a person who owns a perfectly tuned, flawless sports car.
That's a great analogy.
So the pure aggregates are the car, the Buddha is the driver, and the pink slip, the actual relationship between them, is the ownership.
Exactly. The Abhidharma says, look at this pristine driver in his pristine car.
And Nāgārjuna is about to ask if the driver, the car, and the deed of ownership even actually exist.
Pretty much. He's going to ask you to show him the driver independent of the car, and then he'll ask you to show him the car independent of its parts. He is going to rigorously test whether any of these 3 spheres, the owner, the ownership, or the possessions, can exist inherently, like from their own side with their own svabhava.
And this is where the intellectual fireworks really start,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because Nāgārjuna doesn't just say, hey, you're wrong. He traps you.
He totally traps you.
He forces you to take your own assumptions to their absolute logical limits using a tool called the tetralemma.
Right, the tetralemma. It's a 4-cornered logical system inherited from ancient Indian philosophy.
How does it work?
Well, when analyzing the relationship between 2 things, let's call them A, and B, Western logic usually just asks, are they the same or are they different? It's a binary.
Aye, black or white.
But the tetralemma demands you evaluate 4 possibilities. First is A identical to B. Second is A different from B. Third is A both identical and different. Or fourth is A neither identical nor different.
Wow. So it systematically exhausts every conceivable angle your mind could possibly take to defend a concept.
Exactly. You can't wiggle out of it.
Yeah.
And Nāgārjuna applies this directly to the triad. Let's look at the first 2 verses of chapter 22.
Okay.
He asks the Abhidharma essentialist, is the Tathagata identical to his aggregates?
Well, let's think about that. If the driver is identical to the sports car, then the driver literally is a steering wheel and 4 tires.
Right.
If the Buddha is identical to his mind and body, then he is nothing more than those fleeting sensations and thoughts.
Precisely. And the aggregates are, by definition, impermanent and constantly changing.
Right, they're always in flux.
So if the Buddha is identical to them, he is constantly arising and ceasing. His enlightenment would be momentary. He would be entirely conditioned by causes.
Which contradicts the very definition of an awakened, unconditioned being.
Exactly. So identical fails.
Okay, so the Abhidharma philosopher says, fine, he's not identical to his aggregates. He is the master of them. He's entirely different and separate from them.
But if the Tathagata is entirely different from his form, sensations, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, where is he?
Oh, like he wouldn't have a body to sit under the Bodhi tree.
He wouldn't have a consciousness to realize enlightenment either.
Exactly. A driver who exists totally independently of any vehicle, without any physical or mental location. I mean, that's just a phantom.
It is. Furthermore, this violates the core Buddhist doctrine of dependent origination. How can a human being, even an awakened one, exist totally apart from any psychophysical components?
So identical fails because it makes him a slave to impermanence. And different fails because it makes him a non-existent ghost.
Right.
My instinct here is to try and find a middle ground. What if he is both identical and different? Like maybe his physical body is identical to the form aggregate, but his soul or consciousness is different?
A lot of people try that route, but if you try to say he is both, you run headfirst into a logical contradiction.
How so?
You cannot simultaneously be exactly the same as something and completely separate from it in the same respect. If part of him is identical and part is different, you've just split the Buddha into two entities.
Oh, I see.
And then you have to run the tetralemma all over again on each of those new parts. It just leads to infinite conceptual fragmentation.
Wow, okay. I see the trap closing. So the last desperate move for the Abhidharma thinker is to say, well, he is neither identical nor different.
Which is a complete cop-out.
Really?
Yeah, saying he is neither identical nor different leaves the Buddha completely undefined. It posits this mystical relationship that cannot be articulated.
Right.
Which, in a rigorous philosophical debate, is basically equivalent to throwing your hands in the air and admitting defeat. It provides absolutely no actual basis for understanding how he functions.
This is brutal. But Nāgārjuna doesn't stop at identity and difference, does he?
No, not at all.
The text implies an entire gauntlet of dualities that have to be subjected to this exact same pressure test. Because the Abhidharma isn't just making claims about identity, they are making deep claims about existence, time, and causality.
That's right. Let's walk through that gauntlet, because it is the absolute core of Madhyamaka reasoning.
Let's do it.
Nāgārjuna takes every extreme position regarding the triad, the owner, ownership, and possessions, and shows how assuming svabhava leads to absurdity. Consider existence and non-existence. Can the Buddha inherently exist?
Well, if something inherently exists, if it has svabhava, it means it doesn't rely on anything else to be what it is.
Right.
It's a completely self-sustaining fact of the universe.
Right. And if the Buddha inherently exists, he must be uncaused and unchanging.
Unchanging.
Yeah, because if he could change, his inherent nature would be lost, which proves it wasn't inherent to begin with.
Oh, I get it.
But if the Buddha is uncaused and unchanging, how did Siddhartha Gautama achieve enlightenment?
Because enlightenment implies a transition.
Exactly, a transition from ignorance to wisdom. Inherent existence makes spiritual progress literally impossible. You'd just be stuck forever.
Okay, so he can't inherently exist. So does he inherently not exist? Is he just a total void?
If he inherently does not exist, then there was no historical figure who sat under the tree. There is no one who taught the Four Noble Truths. And the entire Buddhist path is based on a literal nothing. That's nihilism, which Nāgārjuna fiercely rejects.
So both existing and not existing is a contradiction. And neither existing nor not existing is meaningless.
Exactly.
Let's try another duality. What about continuous versus discontinuous? This one always trips me up.
It's a tricky one.
The whole premise of karma is continuity, right? I do something good today, it ripens into a good result tomorrow. So surely the Buddha's path from an ignorant prince to an awakened sage must be inherently continuous.
Think about what inherently continuous actually means, though. If the timeline of the Buddha is a single, unbroken, solid essence, if it has svabhava, then the ignorant prince and the enlightened Buddha are fundamentally the exact same immutable substance.
Oh, right.
If the continuity itself has svabhava, there is no room for actual transformation. The ignorance would be just as eternal as the enlightenment.
The gears of cause and effect would essentially be glued together. Nothing could turn.
Exactly. You'd be frozen in time. But if you swing to the opposite extreme...
That it's inherently discontinuous.
Right. If you say that each moment is completely separate and isolated from the next, possessing its own independent svabhava, you break karma entirely.
How?
Because the person who engaged in the ascetic practices would have absolutely no connection to the person who experienced nirvana. It would be like me eating a meal and you suddenly getting full.
That makes so much sense.
Right.
So if it's inherently continuous, change is impossible. If it's inherently discontinuous, causality is impossible.
Right.
Let's push further. What about the concepts of separate versus united? We touched on this with the car analogy, but how does it apply strictly to the pure aggregates?
Okay, so if the Buddha and his pure aggregates are inherently separate, they have absolute impenetrable boundaries.
Like a brick wall between them.
Yes. The driver can never actually touch the steering wheel. The consciousness can never interact with the physical form.
They're just adjacent but isolated.
Exactly. But if they are inherently united, if they form one solid essential block of svabhava, then you obliterate the distinction between a mind and a body entirely. You lose the whole complexity of the human experience.
It's like mixing all the colors of paint together on a palette. You just get a dark, indistinguishable sludge.
That's a perfect visual. And Nāgārjuna applies this logic relentlessly to everything. Let's ask, is reality inherently dual or non-dual?
Oh, this is a huge one. Because so much of spiritual seeking, like across all traditions, is trying to escape duality and reach non-duality.
But if reality is inherently dual, meaning duality is the absolute, unchangeable svabhava truth of the universe, then samsara and nirvana are forever separated by an unbridgeable gulf.
Right. You are here, enlightenment is over there.
And because the gap is inherent, no amount of meditation or practice can ever cross it. You are doomed.
So then the answer must be non-dual, right?
Yeah.
We're all one.
But if reality is inherently non-dual in an absolute essentialist sense, then the messy reality of your everyday life is exactly the same as the perfection of a Buddha in every single conventional way.
Wait, really?
Yes, there would be no distinction between a murderer and a saint. It completely invalidates the need for any ethical framework or spiritual practice.
Oh, wow.
You'd already be fully enlightened while screaming in traffic, which clearly isn't the case.
Every time I try to grab onto a concept, it just crumbles in my hands.
That's the point.
Let's look at self-existent versus other-existent. This seems to drill down to the very root of what svabhava is.
It does. This is arguably the most devastating critique. So the Abhidharma desperately wants the Buddha to be self-existent.
Right, standing on his own.
But as we've seen, total self-existence means total isolation from the universe. No causes, no conditions, no interaction. He would be a static, frozen God figure.
Unreachable. So the alternative is that he is other-existent. His reality depends on other things. Like his consciousness depends on his brain, his enlightenment depends on his past karma.
But if his essence comes entirely from something else, then he has no nature of his own at all.
Okay.
And what about that other thing? Does his past karma have its own self-existence?
No, I guess it relies on earlier karma.
Exactly. You enter an infinite regress. If everything gets its essence from something else and nothing has its own essence to give in the first place, the entire chain just collapses. You can never find a solid foundation.
It's like borrowing money to pay off borrowed money. Eventually, there's no actual cash anywhere.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to try one more because this is the trap I think most people fall into when they start studying this philosophy.
Let's hear it.
What about empty versus non-empty? Nāgārjuna is famously arguing for emptiness. So surely he believes the Buddha is inherently empty.
Oh, this is the ultimate trap.
I knew it.
If you say the Buddha is inherently non-empty, you are back to essentialism. He's a solid, unchanging block. But if you say he is inherently empty, and you treat that emptiness as a new, solid fact of reality,
You've just turned emptiness into a thing.
you've made emptiness the new svabhava.
Exactly.
If emptiness has inherent existence, it violates its own definition. Emptiness simply means the lack of inherent existence. It's a description of how things are, not a cosmic substance that things are made of.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because after running this exhausting gauntlet, after proving that the Buddha and his aggregates cannot be identical, different, existent, non-existent, continuous, discontinuous, dual, non-dual, self-existent, or other-existent, where does Nāgārjuna leave us?
He leaves us with the profound conclusion that all three spheres, the owner, the ownership, and the possessions, are entirely empty of inherent existence.
They completely lack svabhava.
They do. They are never absolute, and because they lack this independent, solid essence, there is no real opposition or relation between opposites.
Wait, unpack that last part for me. No real opposition between opposites.
Think about the duality of pure and impure. The Abhidharma thought impurity was a real solid thing that you had to scrape away to reveal the solid, real thing called purity.
Right, like scrubbing dirt off a window.
But if neither purity nor impurity has an inherent essence, they aren't fundamental forces warring in the universe. They are entirely relative concepts.
Oh, I see.
Without the concept of short, the concept of long is completely meaningless. They co-create each other. On an ultimate level, there are no real opposites at all because nothing has the independent solidity required to stand in absolute opposition to anything else.
Okay, I have to be honest here. If I'm listening to this, and I've just watched you logically annihilate the Buddha, his aggregates, and the very concepts of existence and purity, I am feeling a deep sense of vertigo.
That's a very normal reaction.
It sounds like you philosophize reality completely out of existence. How is this not just pure, terrifying nihilism? If the Buddha is empty, what is the point of anything?
That vertigo is entirely intentional. Nāgārjuna is stripping away your conceptual safety nets, but he is acutely aware of the danger of nihilism.
Okay, so how does he save us from it?
If things don't inherently exist, you have to ask, how do they function? Why can I knock on a wooden table? Why did the historical Buddha walk the earth and actually teach?
Right. The sports car still drives down the street, even if we can't find its essence.
This brings us to the web of illusion, which is explained in verses 5 through 10. Nāgārjuna prevents the fall into nihilism by introducing the principle of inseparability and dependent co-origination.
Dependent co-origination. Let's spend some real time here because this is the antidote to the vertigo, isn't it?
It is the absolute core mechanism of reality in Madhyamaka. The very reason things can function is because they lack a solid, isolated essence.
Wait, because they lack essence, they can function.
Yes, because the Buddha and the aggregates are empty of svabhava, they are open to interaction, they are fluid, they are inseparable, they dependently co-originate.
Meaning they only arise in dependence upon one another.
Yes. The driver is only a driver because there is a car. The car is only a car because there are parts arranged in a specific way and a human mind present to designate that arrangement as a vehicle.
So they are interdependent, co-defined, co-emergent, and co-evolving.
Exactly. They don't exist from their own side. They are co-imputed by the mind.
Co-imputed, meaning we project the label onto them.
Right. The Buddha is not a biologically or metaphysically isolated entity. The Buddha is a convenient label, a mere designation that we apply to a highly specific, dynamic, and purified stream of interdependent phenomena.
This dynamic tension introduces the concept of the union of the two truths. I know this is a massive pillar of Nāgārjuna's thought.
It is huge.
How do the two truths rescue us from nihilism on one hand and essentialism on the other?
Well, the two truths are a framework for understanding how reality presents itself versus how it actually is. You have the conventional truth and the ultimate truth.
Okay.
Ultimately, as we just proved with the tetralemma, the Buddha and the aggregates are empty of inherent existence. If you look for their solid core, you will never find it. That is the ultimate truth.
But
Conventionally, they function perfectly well. In the everyday world of cause and effect, the Buddha teaches compassion is generated, karma operates.
Yeah.
The conventional reality is made up of relatively useful tools and designations. The union of the two truths demands that you hold both of these realities simultaneously. The three spheres, owner, ownership, possessions, aren't completely non-existent, but they aren't inherently existent either.
I mean, this is incredibly demanding for our binary brains to visualize.
It really is.
I'm supposed to look at reality and simultaneously see it as functioning, but also empty. It reminds me of the specific analogies Nāgārjuna uses in the text to help us grasp this.
He has some beautiful analogies.
Yeah, he says these phenomena are like illusions, like reflections, mirages, dreams, or echoes.
Those metaphors are brilliant because they perfectly capture the there yet not there nature of dependent origination.
Think about an echo in a canyon. If you yell, the echo bounces back. It is conventionally real.
Right, it functions.
Exactly. It carries sound waves. It can startle you. You could literally record it on your phone. It has a conventional reality. But if you try to run over to the canyon wall, catch the echo in a net, put it in a box, and say, I own the essence of this echo.
You look ridiculous.
You do, because the echo has no solid core.
Right. It has no inherent existence independent of the canyon geometry, the atmospheric pressure, and the original sound of your voice. It is entirely co-originated.
What's fascinating here is how the brilliance of the echo metaphor forces you to acknowledge that functionality does not require essence.
Exactly. The Buddha functions, he teaches, he emanates compassion, just like the echo functions.
But the Buddha has no absolute isolated essence, just like the echo can't be put in a box.
And this realization is incredibly liberating. It prevents you from reifying the Buddha into a distant, unreachable God, and it also prevents you from dismissing him as a hallucination.
Okay, I'm tracking with the echo, but an echo eventually fades.
It does.
Which brings us to a massive existential question. If the Buddha is an echo, what happens when the sound completely dissipates? What happens after death?
This is where Nāgārjuna pushes us beyond conception itself. In verses 13 through 15, he turns his analytical laser on the aftermath of nirvana.
The big unknown.
Yeah. The Abhidharma thinkers, and honestly almost anyone who has ever pondered mortality, desperately want to know, does the enlightened being exist after physical death or not exist?
It is the ultimate human anxiety. Where do we go? Do we persist or do we just vanish?
And Nāgārjuna responds by deploying a generalized version of the tetralemma. He takes the concepts of this and non-this and applies them to whatever post-death state you can possibly imagine.
Okay, lay it on me.
Does the Tathagata exist after death? Do they not exist? Do they both exist and not exist? Do they neither exist nor not exist?
I feel like I know exactly where this is going. Every single option is a trap.
Every single one. He affirms that the true nature of the Tathagata and all three spheres cannot be captured by this, not by non-this, not by both, and not by neither.
And importantly, He makes it clear there's no secret fifth option. Right.
No hidden trap door to an eternal heaven that somehow defies logic.
Right.
No. The generalized tetralemma exhausts all conceptual proliferation. If you ask, is the Buddha after death eternal or non-eternal, the answer is not this, not non-this, not both, not neither.
Wow.
Does he enter a state with a self or without a self? Not this, not non-this, not both, not neither.
I understand why both and neither fail, because they are basically just word games. But I'm still struggling a bit with why existence and non-existence fail when talking about life after death. Doesn't it have to be one or the other? You are either there or you aren't.
It definitely feels that way to our conditioned minds. But remember what Nāgārjuna just proved in the previous poses. Every single concept you are trying to use, existence, non-existence, eternity, self, is predicated on the assumption of inherent existence.
Oh, I see it.
When you ask what happens to the Buddha after death, you are subtly asking what happens to his solid core.
Right. Does the solid core persist eternally? Or does the solid core get annihilated?
But Nāgārjuna just spent the first half of the chapter proving there never was a solid core to begin with.
It's like asking what happens to the core of an echo when the canyon collapses. The question itself is fundamentally flawed because the premise is false.
Precisely. You are trying to track the trajectory of an illusion. The conclusion is that the true nature of reality and the true nature of the Tathagata is entirely beyond all conditioned, dualistic, conceptual proliferation.
It's beyond all our maps.
It is completely beyond all of our models, our triads, our dyads. It is inconceivable.
Okay, I have to push back here because this feels incredibly frustrating.
Fair enough.
If the ultimate truth is totally beyond our concepts, beyond our language, beyond our ability to model it, are we just wasting our time right now?
How so?
Well, we have spent all this time rigorously applying logic, dissecting tetralemmas, to reach a point where you tell me logic doesn't apply. Why even try to map something that is entirely unmappable?
That is the crucial tension of Madhyamaka. Why use concepts to destroy concepts?
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is that the map is not the territory, but the map can still point you to the edge of the cliff where you must leap.
That's poetic. But how does it actually work in practice?
Nāgārjuna isn't using logic to build a positive, descriptive model of ultimate reality. He isn't trying to build a new house for you to live in.
Okay.
He is using logic as an acid to dissolve your false maps. Our minds are hopelessly addicted to grasping. We instinctively want to grasp at existence or grasp at non-existence just to feel secure.
We want ground under our feet.
Exactly. The rigorous logic of the tetralemma burns away every single conceptual handle your mind tries to grab onto.
It systematically exhausts the intellect.
That's exactly it. By exhausting every conceptual possibility and showing them to be absurd, the mind eventually runs out of places to hide. It exhausts its conceptual proliferation.
And then what?
And in that specific moment of conceptual exhaustion, when you deeply, viscerally realize that absolutely no concept can hold reality, that is when direct, non-conceptual realization can occur. The concepts are the ladder you use to climb up to the roof, but you have to kick the ladder away once you are up there.
So, if we can't conceptualize it and we ultimately have to kick the ladder away, what is the practical takeaway? How do I adopt the right attitude toward reality as I actually go about my day?
Good question.
Because I still have to pay my taxes, interact with my family, and navigate traffic. How do you live a functional life in a world of echoes?
That brings us to the middle way attitude. This is Nāgārjuna's actual prescription for living. The best attitude toward the three spheres and toward all of reality is the middle way, but we have to be extremely precise about what middle way means here.
Right.
It is not a compromise.
It's not taking a little bit of existence and a little bit of non-existence and mixing them together into a lukewarm soup.
No. It is a complete transcendence of those extremes. It means being completely free from this and free from non-this, and crucially free from the middle ground of both and neither.
Okay.
Nāgārjuna explicitly warns against falling into any philosophical extreme, many of which our modern minds still struggle with today.
What kind of modern extremes? Like what?
Well, we have to avoid objectivism and realism, the belief that the physical world is made of solid, independent stuff out there.
Right, the classical scientific materialism view.
Yes, but we equally must avoid subjectivism, idealism, solipsism, and nihilism, the belief that nothing exists, or that everything is just an illusion in my head, or that nothing matters.
Okay, those are the classic opposites. What about newer philosophical trends?
He anticipates those too. We must avoid relationism and processism.
What's that?
It's the trap of realizing that things are just processes, but then reifying the process itself into a new absolute reality.
Oh, like saying everything is energy in flux.
Exactly. If you make flux your new absolute svabhava, you've missed the point entirely.
I feel attacked. I definitely do that. Okay, what else?
We avoid dualism and pluralism on one hand, but we also must strictly avoid monism or radical oneness on the other.
Wait, pause right there. Avoid radical oneness.
Yes.
In a lot of contemporary spirituality, the ultimate goal is realizing we are all one. The universe is one giant unified soup of consciousness. You're saying Nāgārjuna rejects oneness.
Emphatically, yes.
Yeah.
Because oneness is just another extreme concept. It's a massive universe-sized svabhava.
Oh, wow.
If everything is inherently one, then there is no differentiation. There is no dependent origination. If everything is just one blob of cosmic consciousness, how do cause and effect operate?
Right. Why does eating food stop my hunger but not yours?
Exactly. The middle way avoids many just as fiercely as it avoids one.
Okay, so I can't cling to many, I can't cling to one, I can't cling to existence or non-existence. What about emptiness itself?
Yeah.
Can I at least cling to the realization that everything is empty?
A lot of people try.
Like, everything lacks inherent existence. I've got it. Emptiness is the truth.
That is the most dangerous trap of all. And verse 11 specifically addresses it. Nāgārjuna says, do not even reify emptiness. Emptiness itself is empty.
Emptiness of emptiness. It sounds like a Zen riddle, but I'm starting to see the practical necessity of it.
It is entirely practical. If you take emptiness and turn it into a cosmic void, or a primordial ground of being, or a new absolute truth that you worship or cling to, you have just created a new essence.
You've built a new idol.
You have. Emptiness is not a thing hiding behind the curtain of reality. It is simply a description of the fact that the curtain and everything else lacks inherent existence.
It's a tool. It's the analytical wrench we started the deep dive with. You use the wrench to take apart the car, but you don't then worship the wrench as the true nature of the car.
Beautifully put. We conclude that we can use these concepts, the Buddha, emptiness, the aggregates, conventionally and relatively. They are immensely useful tools.
Right.
You need the concept of a Buddha to inspire your path. You need the concept of emptiness to cut through your daily ignorance. But you must never, ever use them in absolute terms.
So for you listening, what this practically means is you must use the tools of your life and your spiritual practice without attachment. Without reification, without straining for absolutes.
Yes.
You chop wood and carry water, fully knowing that the wood, the water, and the water, that you are all dependently co-arising phenomena. You engage with the world passionately. You try to reduce suffering, but you do it without the heavy anchor of grasping at essences.
It is a state of absolute lightness. You are engaging with illusions, fully knowing they are illusions, which frees you to interact with them playfully and compassionately.
This brings us to what I think is the most mind-blowing, reality-altering part of this entire deep dive. Because we've deconstructed the Buddha, we've deconstructed the aggregates, we've deconstructed emptiness itself.
You've torn it all down.
So what does this actually mean for the ultimate nature of the universe? It culminates in verse 16, which is the climax of the chapter.
Verse 16 is an absolute ontological earthquake. Nāgārjuna writes, the self-existence of the Tathagata is the self-existence of the world. The Tathagata is without self-existence, and the world is without self-existence.
Let's just sit with that for a second. The self-existence of the Tathagata is the self-existence of the world.
It is a total leveling of the ontological playing field. Remember the Abhidharma view we started with?
Yeah.
The idea that there is a pure Buddha over here and an impure, suffering world over there.
Right, the dualistic divide.
Nāgārjuna just erased the line. Because the Buddha is empty of inherent existence, and because the world samsara, the traffic, the dirty dishes, your stress, is equally empty of inherent existence, there is absolutely zero ontological difference between them.
Zero difference between the pure and the impure, between samsara and nirvana.
Exactly. There are not two different realities. There is not a dirty, broken reality down here and a pristine, perfect reality hovering in another dimension that you have to escape to.
Right.
There is only one reality as it is. It is simply perceived in two different ways.
Perceived with ignorance or perceived with wisdom.
Yes. When perceived with dualistic ignorance, when you try to grasp at things as if they have permanent, solid essences, this exact reality appears as the suffering of samsara.
And the other way.
When perceived with non-dual wisdom, when you see that everything is empty, dependently originated, and freely interacting, this exact same reality is nirvana.
So what does this all mean? It's like wearing heavily tinted, distorted sunglasses your entire life. You look around and everything is red and jagged and stressful.
Great analogy.
You spend your whole life trying to build a rocket ship to fly out of the red room and find a clear room. But nirvana isn't a different location. You don't go anywhere.
No.
Nirvana is just taking off the glasses of dualistic grasping and seeing the exact same room, the exact same traffic, the exact same dirty dishes in their pure, primordially equal light.
That captures it perfectly. Because of this primordial equality, we conclude that we might as well perceive everything as primordially equal. Pure, perfect, complete, and divine. And we say one, but we must remember it's beyond many. One, both, or neither. The ultimate goal isn't to change the fabric of reality. It is to simply abide in reality as it is. To rest in suchness.
It takes an unbelievable amount of pressure off. You don't have to become something else. You don't have to manufacture purity out of thin air. You just have to realize the true nature of what is already here in front of you.
Exactly. As we bring all these threads together, the final synthesis of Chapter 22 is profoundly liberating, precisely because it is so relentlessly deconstructive.
Let's summarize those ultimate takeaways.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to explain this to a friend tomorrow, what are the core pillars I need to hit?
If we connect this to the bigger picture first, the true nature of absolutely everything in both samsara and nirvana, including the three gems of Buddhism and the two truths themselves, is indescribable.
Totally inconceivable.
Yes, for our conditioned, dualistic, conceptual minds. You cannot think your way to ultimate reality. The intellect is a tool that must eventually exhaust itself so that reality can be directly perceived, realized, and experienced.
The map burns up in your hands when you reach the territory.
Second, and this is perhaps the hardest pill to swallow for many spiritual seekers, there is absolutely no inherently existing ground, basis, or source for all phenomena.
Let's really emphasize this. No ground of being. No cosmic womb.
None. There is no primordial cosmic void from which the universe sprang. There is no inherent, ultimate, pure consciousness hiding behind the curtain of the physical world.
No unmoved mover.
Right. The search for a foundational source is just another attempt to find svabhava.
So what are we left with?
We are left with what some call the union of the two truths about the two truths themselves. U2T2T.
Okay, that sounds like a mathematical formula. Break that down for me. Union of the two truths about the two truths.
It means that even the conceptual framework Nāgārjuna used to tear down the Abhidharma, the conventional truth of dependent origination and the ultimate truth of emptiness, should not be reified or set up as opposing absolutes. They are themselves a union. They are dependently co-arisen. The concept of emptiness only exists in dependence on the concept of form. Therefore, the two truths are themselves empty of inherent existence.
It really is turtles all the way down, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the realization is that the turtles themselves are empty illusions.
Exactly. They form a brilliantly useful model to deconstruct all other conventional models, triads, and dyads.
But at the end of the day,
Without completely rejecting their conventional relative usefulness, they leave nothing, absolutely nothing, to grasp in absolute terms. When seen with an enlightened eye, everything is primordially equal.
it feels like being pushed out of an airplane. You are left in a state of conceptual freefall, desperately reaching for a parachute of existence or non-existence.
Yeah.
But the ultimate realization is that there is no ground to hit.
And when you truly realize there is no ground to hit, the panic of the free fall dissolves. You realize you aren't falling, you are flying.
Everything is dependently arisen.
Everything is empty, and therefore everything is a spontaneous miracle of interaction.
I want to thank you, the listener, for staying with us on this incredibly dense, reality-bending journey. We asked you to look the ultimate X-ray of reality, and we found that the bones, the machine, and the doctor reading the chart were all interdependent echoes, empty of any solid core.
It is arguably one of the most challenging philosophical perspectives ever articulated, but if you can sit with the vertigo, it is deeply, profoundly freeing.
It is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you go back to your day, back to your traffic, back to your life. If there is truly no inherent difference between the perfection of the Buddha and the messy, chaotic reality of your everyday life, and if there is no ultimate, ground, or higher, pristine realm to escape to, then what exactly are you running from?
That's the question.
If you stop trying to fix your reality to make it pure and simply look at it with the enlightened eye of primordial equality right now, how does the ordinary suddenly become completely magical? The true nature of reality is already right in front of you. You just have to take off the glasses.